What is up, watchers? Will here again with a review for you, and today we are talking about the new Netflix feature that we have been waiting on from Japan, Godzilla Planet of the Monsters. So, I'll give a summary of the first film in this new animated trilogy, then we'll get into the pros and cons, and finally the rating. So, let's get right to it. Planet of the Monsters follows the fringe remains of humanity, who for the past 20 years have been trying to find a hospitable planet ever since the apocalyptic uprising of the monsters and their most dangerous threat, Godzilla. As time passes, our main character, Captain Haruo Sakaki, voiced by Christopher Kerbifer Neosi in the dub, has held a grudge against the King of Monsters ever since he killed his parents during childhood and forced humanity to evacuate the planet. In trying to investigate the quality of Earth and trying to see if they can stop Godzilla and reclaim their planet, they discover not only has Godzilla survived, he has thrived, and the entire ecosystem seems to reflect his current reign. The humans believe that they've only been gone for 20 years, but for Earth it's actually been about 20,000 years due to how long their travel's taken. Unfortunately, the trained troops that they sent down on Earth ended up trapped on the planet face to face not just with Godzilla, but also these new flying and ground creatures that I have covered before, known as the Servum. With resources and fighters dwindling, the responsibility of their survival falls on Haruo to help try and destroy Godzilla. But at the end, there is a twist that lets us know that their fight to survive has only just begun. So, I watched the dub version on Netflix because of preference, and I've got to say that the movie is good. The pros for it include, I would say, really solid characterization and voice acting for Captain Sakaki and his partner, Colonel Metphius. I've heard a few projects from Kerbifer on his own channel, but seeing him flex his range in a professional dub was a pleasant surprise. The soundtrack of this movie is really good, and I'd say it's probably up there with Shin Godzilla in terms of adding good tone to the various sequences throughout the movie. The story is pretty straightforward, and it follows and establishes right at the beginning what will tie into the end, which I will try not to spoil because a video may be done on it soon. Also, the way that the story plays out reminds me of Shin Godzilla, wherein Godzilla, although not being seen all the time in the movie, the plot still centers around his presence as a threat and how humanity has to find a strategy to deal with him. Also, the animation overall is pretty good and pretty clean. The cons for the movie? Well, the other characters for some reason didn't feel as memorable to me, despite their roles being important in fighting against Godzilla, and I'm sure a few of them will make a recurring presence in the next two movies. I also wish we got a few more clear visuals of other monsters on the planet. We got small minor cameos and mentions, and it is called Planet of the Monsters, but aside from the opening, we really only see Godzilla and Godzilla-related monsters. I think showing the return and change of these other species may have added to the atmosphere a little bit to remind the audience that this really isn't our Earth anymore. Also, due to the nature of the production, and this isn't really in Funimation's control, the English audio didn't always match with the lip flaps, but that's more of a minor nitpick than an overall issue that messes up the movie. The only thing I may say, and this is a bit of a personal preference, I'm not the biggest fan of the current Godzilla design for this movie. I remember first seeing him and thinking that he kind of looked like a roided up version of the legendary MonsterVerse Godzilla, but his scales were a lot more muddied over, so he kind of looks like a giant, sharp pile of poop. It looks a lot better in motion than in the stills, I would say, and from a plot standpoint, his appearance does make sense because he is a plant-based organism, so his skin kind of resembling tight, twisted vines and roots is understandable. But I'm just not the biggest fan. Overall, it is a solid entry into the franchise. I think if you like Shin Godzilla, you will enjoy this one. You may not love it, but I think people will like it. It's different in a lot of aspects, but the core idea of man versus nature comes back like it has in the previous two Godzilla movies. Also, this Godzilla is super OP, so do with that what you will. If I had to give it a numerical rating, I'd give it an 8. I am very curious to see what comes out with more information with the next release in Japan coming out in May, and so hopefully around the summertime we'll get the second movie. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Did you like Godzilla Planet of the Monsters? Why or why not? While you're there, make sure to give this video a like and subscribe for more daily content. Also, Check out our website and Patreon for more. I'm Will, and I'll see you next time.